Hi, I'm Jackie Tantillo, and this is Should Have Listened to My Mother. Thank you again for your support. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to Should Have Listened to My Mother, including YouTube, and leave us a comment. It's always good to hear from listeners. Sometimes it takes us a while to truly figure out what our mother's intentions were, or are for that matter. Easier for some than others, but it can be complicated. My guest, Chana Silverstein, says she had a helicopter mom who lived vicariously through her, and that her mom loved her more than anyone in this world could. Chana Silverstein is an expert, one could say, in lots of fields. She's a mother of 7, has multiple degrees, master herbalist, international board certified lactation consultant, and an author, just to name a few. And I am very curious as to what Sara's journey has been and to find out if she's who she is today because of or in spite of her mother. Again, it's complicated, we know. Hi, Sara. Welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Hi, Jackie. So happy to be here.
So happy to be here. And a little bit later on, we are going to talk about all that you do, all the really neat topics that you cover on your social media, your Instagram and Facebook. And it's just great. The interaction, the integration of botanical medicines as well as Western medicine and how we can all stay happy and healthy. So it's really kind of fun, the fields that you've chosen. And I'm curious as to how many of your degrees you actually have, because I know you have a lot. But first, we're going to talk about your mom, because she must have been pretty magic if you've accomplished all that you've accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, I was, there's always good and bad and phenomenal and struggles with all kind of mother-daughter relationships. My mother was my biggest fan. My mother is currently not well and can't speak anymore, and I get tears in my eyes when I feel that loss, because there's nothing better than having a fan behind you. And even if I fell and things didn't work, she was always like, "Don't worry, you're great, you got this." And if I was tired, she'd say, "Then go take a nap and then finish it." So I think my lesson learned is that a fan can only help you through good times and difficult times. And I remember a pediatrician who I respect and work with stood up once. He was getting an award, and he looked in front of the crowd and said, "If my dad didn't back me on this, I wouldn't be here today." And this is a big 6 foot tall, powerful man.
Yeah.
So I'm only 5 feet tall, a little kind of tiny, powerful woman. And I wanted to say, like, yeah, I get that. So I would say that I am where I am because of that. My mom gave me this self-confidence, for good or for bad, but I have this almost delusion that I could do anything I put my mind to.
That's a huge gift. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm never intimidated. I'm not intimidated to do public speaking. I was a childhood actress. I did a lot of movies and television in my previous, well, not my previous life, my current life, the beginning. And my mother, as I said, was a helicopter mom, and she was a stage mom. And I remember the line was, "If they ask you if you can do it, just say yes, and we'll figure out." So I was up for a part to play Barbra Streisand's daughter, and I did know how to horseback ride. And they said, "Do you know how to horseback ride and jump? Jump like over, I forget what you call it,
The horse jumps, yeah."
I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I walked out of there. I said, "Mom, jump a horse?" She goes, "You get this part, you'll be an expert in a week." So that was kind of just how I was raised.
Oh, I love her. What is your mom's name?
My mother is Enid Natalie, and her married name was Bluestein.
And how did you refer to her? How would you say, "Hey, Mom"?
Mom. Mom. You know how it is. We don't always have that sweet voice.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have 2 sisters.
Younger or older? Or
Younger than me.
Mm-hmm. Did they have the same relationship with your mom as you did?
I think my mom got remarried to their father, and I think as my mother, he was not a great human being, and my mom did disintegrate as the years go on. So I kind of got the best of her. I feel bad for my sisters, but I really did get her in her 20s and 30s when she was powerful and fun and dynamic, and she felt the two of us could take over the world, with a snap of the fingers. So I don't think my sisters got quite the relationship that I did.
How old were you when she remarried?
Probably about 5. So, and she didn't have another child till 6 years later. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I was 11 when she had her child. So from like 6 to 11. And then to be honest, she had full-time help. So I still had her almost exclusively until I was 16.
Wow, that's amazing. That changes a lot, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you get along with your sisters? Are you close with your stepsisters?
Yes, I love my sisters very much.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
It,
That's
it
good.
was devastating when they learned that I was only their half sister. They were in denial. They said she's my full sister. So, yes, there's been some rocky roads around taking care of my mom, but generally we're extremely close and I respect them greatly.
Oh, wonderful. That's very important. I'm the youngest of 7. I think I probably say that every show, but I am the youngest of 7, and we're all very, very close. And we were all there to take care of our mom. And unfortunately, our dad died suddenly, so the situation was very different, but it's part of our character. It's in our blood. And not everybody has
Yes.
that experience. You mentioned your mom as your manager. Can you tell us a little bit more about her personality? And it seems like she was duly fit for this manager mom position that she was in.
So I had an agent, but my mom was that stage mom. So I did tons of TV shows and tons of commercials as a girl. And my mother was there by my side the entire time. She told me I could do it, gave me that self confidence. And as I said in the beginning, she lived vicariously through me. So whenever I got a TV show, she was the one, stomping her feet and clapping because that meant that she could, go with me to the TV station. So I know she did it a lot for herself. But it didn't matter because, again, she gave me that confidence, and it didn't matter what role I was playing or where I was showing up. I really had that self confidence. And I knew that if I couldn't do it, my mom would encourage and help me figure out how to do it. She gave me a lot of extracurricular activities. I did singing, and I have a horrible voice. I was a classical ballerina. She taught me how to play a flute. Like, my mom really felt it was important for me to have as diverse of a background as possible. And then I was able to carry that over with my 7 children. And even if I didn't have a lot of money, Jackie, extracurricular classes and tutors were 911 for my children, which was very important to my mother also.
Where did your mom grow up, and what kind of family dynamics did she have in her life? Was she turned on to all of these lessons and activities and all that kind of thing too?
She was an only child. My grandmother was not a kind woman, and her husband died in his 30s, my mom's dad. So my grandmother was married 4 times. So my mother didn't have that stability. I mean, one of the things that I see as important is, though, even though my grandmother wasn't necessarily a kind person, because back in the day we had all of our family involved. So she had her grandparents on the scene who were very kind. So my mom didn't get that kind of upbringing. She was put in boarding school at a very young age, and her mother was anything but supportive for her. So somehow she took a big turn, saw a world with so much to learn and explore. She did not have the confidence per se to do it herself, so she did it through me and with me, and that way she was able to explore the phenomenal world around us.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier, right, when you have somebody, a buddy, to to experience these adventures with you. So it made it fun for her and worthwhile for you as well. So I totally understand that. Did she do higher education or work before she was married?
Yes, she got a graduate degree. And what's very interesting is my great grandparents came in the late 1800s. My great grandmother went to university. My grandmother got an undergraduate and graduate degree, and my mother got an undergraduate and graduate degree. And so women being educated is extraordinarily important in my family. I'm a Jewish woman, and Jewish women have been taught to read forever. We were never suppressed in our education. So what I was brought up with is that women need to be as educated, if not more educated, than men around us. So it's not true that Jewish women are second class citizens. All I saw around me were women getting higher education.
Wow, that's a gift right there. That's tremendous. And I apologize for people that had expressed that feeling that Jewish women were less than capable, or as you said, second-class citizens, because that's just not acceptable. It's ludicrous. And I'm so glad that you've kept this tradition going, and I'm assuming your children didn't really have an option.
No, they're all well educated in their own areas. I have one son in medical school, one son who's getting his PhD in physics and applied mathematics. My other son is a stand-up comedian and a writer. So both my daughters are getting business degrees. So yeah, we've definitely continued that in our home.
And did your mom play a role as a grandmother with your children? Was she a part of their life?
Yes, until she became ill, she was very much a part of my kids' life. And there was no greater joy she had than hearing about their baseball games, their tests in school. That really was her pleasure, was hearing and experiencing and understanding what my kids were doing in their lives.
And it makes a difference for children to have a generation that is wise and has been around to sprinkle their fairy dust on those little ones.
Yeah.
She was a part of your children's lives as a huge part of your life. And
yes,
what of the lessons other than the inspiration, you can do anything you set your mind to, higher education or education in general is very important. What other kind of lessons did you know you wanted to instill in your family?
Well, I think one of the areas that I didn't listen to her about was she always felt because I'm so driven and creative and have a passion for learning. She did always say, like every other mother, marry rich so you can continue your passion. And I was also raised to accept everybody, all socioeconomic classes, all races of people. We were a home that it was driven to accept everybody. And so since all my friends in school were just going after the money, I had to play the rebel a little bit and say, a well-educated person is more important. So I struggled a lot financially with my 7 kids. It was hard for me to continue my education. My husband was not and is not driven to make money. So that was a place I should have listened to my mother a little bit more, because sometimes I had to do more menial jobs, which I'm not against doing. We all have to do that.
We all have to pay our bills, right?
We all have to pay our bills. And I kind of regret that a bit, because I'm one of those people that feels like they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. I'm not using my brain enough. I'm not doing enough. I can do more. So having that burden of finances. So that's one area that I didn't make a priority. And my mother was not a superficial woman. She wasn't wearing, Gucci and have it dripping with diamonds. I think she just felt for the abilities that God gave me, that finances should just not be part of the worry, so I could build clinics and do other things.
Have you built a clinic yet?
I do. I have a pediatric and women's clinic. It's not as big as it could be, so I don't service as many people, but I did open a medical clinic. Yes, I did.
Well, that's no small feat. Congratulations. I assume after the second marriage, and it wasn't a very happy marriage, even though she had two girls, based on what you said earlier, did she find love eventually?
No, she really didn't. That was really tragic. I mean, she opened when I was a teenager. She opened the first ever only woman's PR firm in Los Angeles. Her partner was the first ever woman newscaster in America. Her name was Terry Mayo. So Terry Mayo was this little 5 foot tall woman who just broke into the male dominated TV world of newscasting. And she loved my mother because my mother really knew how to stand behind a person. So she stood behind and with Terry, and they opened a PR firm. And that was really spectacular when my mother ran that PR firm. And oh my gosh, like you should have seen it. At that point, I was in LA, 16 years old, working for my mom and Terry. I drove a convertible VW thing, which is a crazy car. You can look it up online. And I remember going to an event, and in the back seat, I had all these flyers and posters, and I'm on the 405 freeway going, well, not 55 miles an hour, probably 75. And I'm speeding down there, and I'll never forget all the flyers and posters flew out of the backseat of my car. And you can't really stop on the 405.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
I just remember doing really fun events with Terry Mayo and my mom. So I think that was the highlight. Other than living vicariously through me as a childhood actress, I think working with Terry Mayo was probably really up there on her experiences of joy.
What years was this?
Oh my gosh, you have to have me do the math. Okay, so let me see. That's like around 1975 to 1979.
So your mom knew how to have fun. Did she have girlfriends? Did she go out dancing with them? Did she have a fulfilled life on her own? Or were you her beginning, middle, and end? And
No,
her two other daughters.
she had a lot of fun. She was always heartbroken. She really did not choose the correct men. But no, she had fun. Our generation with Instagram and phones, I think, have really limited, but they didn't have that distraction. So she'd meet for lunch, meet for dinner. Yeah, she definitely enjoyed her interaction with her female friends for sure.
Well, that's good. As long as she was happy, right? That's what you.
Yeah, and my stepdad owned a nightclub on Sunset Boulevard called the Direct Line. And it was a big nightclub. And oh my gosh, I can't even remember all the names, but that was when Motown was really taking off. So the top Motown people would come and play at my stepdad's bar. So my mom loved dancing in the club. She did not drink alcohol, did not touch it, but she had a very active social life. And every year we'd have a big party in our house. And like one year, the theme was like zodiac. So this was the Aquarian, this was the Capricorn. She had like palm readers and all these kind of funky people. So we'd once a year have a party with like hundreds of people. It was like a nightclub in our house. She'd have live bands and
Oh my gosh,
gypsies.
she's
Yeah,
great.
it was really fun. So she did like to do fun things like that.
Oh my goodness. And I can tell that definitely has rubbed off on you and your personality. And that's a good thing, right? We cherish those good things. I love that she had both sides of a great personality, the discipline and yet wanting to have fun. You seem like you're very disciplined. Tell me exactly, how many degrees do you have?
So I went to school, got my undergraduate degree, became an international board certified lactation consultant, doing graduate work in human lactation. I was very surprised at how much little information there was on breastfeeding, and how we were taught to refer for antibiotics and steroids and conventional medicine. And I said, oh my gosh, women have been breastfeeding for the last 5,000 years. So I went back to school and I did a 5-year classical homeopathic program with 2,000 clinical hours. And then I went on to do a 3 years master herbalist program where I also had to do over 500 clinical hours. And when I opened my practice as a lactation consultant, what the women loved was, I always said, if your child gets an ear infection, go to your doctor, have him diagnose it and prescribe. But if you'd like to try herbal medicine, I'm here to teach that to you. And I became very, very popular very, very fast because I'm not against conventional allopathic medicine. It definitely has its place. But when it came to birth and breastfeeding, I didn't feel that their information was completely correct. So I was able to integrate what I did love in conventional and Western medicine with herbal and homeopathic medicine. So I felt and my clients felt it was a perfect combination. When we needed an MRI, I was the first one to suggest that. And if someone got a root canal, I would say, please take that antibiotic. But when we have kids with chronic ear infections or chronic strep throat, or we have kids with ADD and ADHD, I don't know that the pharmaceutical route is the appropriate route for most people.
But everybody has to go through that process themselves and go with what they trust and believe.
Yes, and I never convince anybody, I educate. And it's so funny because I do TV segments for NBC, CBS, and Fox News, morning shows across the US. And I don't know if people know out there, but as experts, we don't get paid. We do it to share our knowledge. Years ago, they used to pay experts, not anymore. And when I first started doing TV segments, I would set up my table with different herbs and different homeopathic remedies. And the stage manager would always come over and say, like, which product are you selling? And I said, I'm just selling information. They were like, no, like let's talk. Like, what product should I focus in on? I was like, well, I'm going to talk about all of them. And they were shocked, Jackie, that I was not selling a product. And my goal was to help people understand how to integrate botanical plant-based medicine with conventional medicine. So I was just driven to give information, and the studios were very surprised by that.
Well, of course they were, because you're one in a million. That's one other gift Enid has given to you. You enjoy helping people. And I know that you have a book out which can help lots of people. It's called Moodtopia and can be found at moodtopiabook.com. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I believe it includes your herbs and your essential oils, I'm assuming, based on the Moodtopia.
Yes. So when I started studying botanical medicine, I was at first taught, about ear infections, strep throat, chronic yeast infections. And I was unaware that herbs can have an impact on our emotional being. And so I really researched that a lot. And I found that there were herbs for depression, sadness, frustration, exhaustion. And when I was deciding what book I wanted to write, I felt like the world really needed to understand that, yes, there are many people that need psychotropic drugs. There's no question about that. And if anybody's listening or you have a loved one that's taking them and they're helping, then it's phenomenal. But a lot of people are not quite to the point where they need psychotropic meds. They just feel frustrated or gloomy around their cycle, during their cycle, or even when they're not cycling. So many uses for herbs with emotional health. So I wrote my book, Moodtopia. It does talk about herbs for psychological challenges, and I do talk about essential oils. And I've had, Jackie, phenomenal responses. People were like, I didn't know I could drink rose tea if I feel like I have a broken heart. They were like, I didn't know the herb motherwort can help with hormonal gloominess. So I felt this book was really important to get out there in the world. And I know that anybody that struggles with, like life, Jackie, life, that they can benefit from the information in my book, Moodtopia.
Yeah, getting up in the morning is way more difficult for some than others. And if you could do these simple little things right from your home under the direction of Sara, then why not if it can help? And that's what the objective is, to help people. So you have been doing this for a very, very long time. We've talked about the lactation consultant work that you do as well. And again, this is something that is easy for people to do the research. If they read your book, they can get in touch with you. The best way, well, your website is sarahana.com, and Sara, it's SARACHANA, sarahana.com, and moodtopiabook.com. And I feel like I've known you forever. You remind me of some of my sisters. So it's really great. And that's kind of what you need when you're going to talk to somebody for help, let alone whether it's brain fog or something hormonal or anything. You need to be able to talk to somebody who's going to get you and listen. That's the most important thing.
And not be judgmental, again, because my mother brought me up with accepting everybody as equals. Everybody. It didn't matter what your ethnic background was. And I think that's a big misunderstanding also. That's how I was raised as an American Jewish girl, to just love everybody and support everybody. I mean, I'll tell you, my mother's first husband, she married a man named Jerry Saperstein, and his father, Abe Saperstein, started the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh my gosh.
And he opened the door. There were no Black men playing basketball professionally. And he started the Harlem Globetrotters. And he actually would be on the bus with them traveling across the country. And at that time, sadly, Black people were not allowed in a lot of the hotels. And my little 5'4" grandfather would sleep on the bus with the basketball players. So I really grew up from my mother and my father's side of just accepting everybody. And I really try to do that in my office, Jackie. That's a big thing for me. I pass no judgment. No way of thinking is wrong. Some people need to be tweaked a little bit in their thoughts. And
or just open to hearing new ideas and perspectives. Right? And philosophies, because they may, whether it's ignorance or they just have never been exposed to something, and then they may need some time to think about it. And colorblind is the best.
Yeah.
Why should a color matter? So you also wanted to mention something else about a giveaway?
Yeah, so I have on my website, sarahana.com, I have a tab under there that says free handouts. And I made this so that people could start to learn a little bit about herbal medicine, essential oils. There are little free handouts on many great topics. You can either print them, put them on your refrigerator, or keep it on your desktop. And that way it can just be there. Like, we spoke a little bit about herbs and emotions. There's an herb called skullcap for anxiety and stress. And you may hear it now on the show and say, I'm a little stressed. I'd love some skullcap. And an hour from now, you're like, what did Jackie and Sara kind of say? So you can print out that handout and just have it there to reference. And people tell me they really appreciate it, Jackie. So I'm glad to offer that to your listeners.
Okay, so where do they go to find this? Your website?
sarahana.com. There's a tab that says free handouts, and there's maybe 50 topics that they can explore and see what resonates with them and print it.
Okay, so again, it's S as Sam, ARACHANA, all one word, sarahana.com. Sara, it's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad. I don't know how you do it with the kids and all your work, but I'm so glad we were able to make this conversation happen.
Jackie, thank you so much. And if I could conclude by, first of all, telling everyone you're one of 7, and I have 7 children, 5 boys and 2 girls, which I'm very proud of. And yes, it was hard work. And if I could mention, if anybody's interested in learning more about herbs and essential oils, I know this was about my mom, which I'm really proud to talk to her about, but I started a school called Moodtopia Academy, very inexpensive, and I do monthly workshops so that I can empower and teach as many people about the world of botanical plant-based medicine, because everything we need to heal, Jackie, grows right around us, even in a big city. So that's a really exciting thing that I've implemented.
Oh, thank you so much for mentioning that. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh, I'm drinking my parsley tea now.
I love it. That's great for your kidneys and bladder.
There you go. And it's as simple as that, those first steps. Sara Chana, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jackie. Wonderful interview. Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.